He's a billionaire who's never known real love, until one choice turns his world upside down. She's only ever been his maid. But on a single wedding night, sparks ignite, and everything changes forever. Witness the moment when two very different lives collide. The mansion felt too quiet for its size. Every tap of Nathaniel Drake's footsteps echoed behind him as he moved through the marble hallways, past rooms furnished with polished antiques and couches nobody ever sat on. The Drake estate had always stood as a monument to legacy and influence, but tonight it felt more like a cavern of emptiness. Nathaniel paused at the tall windows overlooking the palm-lined driveway. Miami's late afternoon sun washed the estate in gold, but even the light couldn't reach the hollow space inside him. He had built empires, closed impossible deals, and become one of the country's most powerful real estate moguls. Yet somehow, he remained untouched by the one thing he thought didn't matter: love. He buttoned the cuff of his crisp shirt, preparing for another high-profile charity event, when a soft knock sounded behind him. "Mr. Drake?" a gentle voice called. He turned and saw Elena Rivera, the newest maid on staff. She stood nervously with her hands clasped, her uniform neatly pressed, her brown eyes avoiding his. "You asked for someone to bring the final paperwork for tonight's auction," she said. Nathaniel took the folder, their fingers brushing for the briefest moment. Enough for her breath to catch, and enough for him to feel something unfamiliar spark beneath his calm exterior. But he hid it quickly. "Thank you," he replied, voice steady. Elena nodded and stepped back, clearly eager to leave his presence. He watched her go, a quiet figure moving swiftly through the vastness of a house that wasn't hers. Maybe that was why she stood out to him. She didn't belong to this world of marble floors and chandeliers. Not the way he did. But life had a way of shifting in a single moment. One quick decision. One unexpected night. And neither of them would ever be the same again. Their worlds were about to collide, in ways neither could have imagined. Later that evening, the Drake estate buzzed with activity. Black SUVs rolled up the driveway. Elegant guests stepped out in shimmering gowns and tailored suits, and the air filled with the hum of conversation and clinking glasses. Nathaniel stood near the entrance, greeting donors with the polished charm he had perfected over the years. But his mind wasn't fully present. Every now and then, his gaze drifted past the crowd, toward the quiet corners of the mansion where staff moved like shadows, particularly one shadow wearing a neatly pressed maid's uniform. Elena worked silently, carrying trays of hors d'oeuvres between the hall and the ballroom, keeping her head lowered as she weaved through clusters of socialites. She had never seen wealth like this, not even in the upscale hotels she cleaned before coming here. The crystal chandeliers, the marble staircase, the live jazz band, none of it felt real. She didn't notice Nathaniel watching her. Not at first, but eventually their eyes met across the room. Just a second. A moment. Enough to make her steps falter before she quickly turned away. Nathaniel exhaled sharply and looked down at the champagne in his hand. Ridiculous, he told himself. She was an employee, a stranger, a woman who lived in a world far smaller and far more honest than the one he inhabited. He tried to focus on the event, but the charity speeches and donor pledges all blurred together. Something about Elena, her quiet composure, her warmth even in silence, pulled at him more than he cared to admit. By the end of the night, guests began to leave. Nathaniel retreated to his private study, exhausted. The door closed behind him with a soft click, muffling the last echoes of the party. Then came another knock. Soft, hesitant. "Mr. Drake?" Elena's voice drifted inside. He lifted his head. "Come in." She stepped through the doorway, carrying a tray with leftover documents and envelopes collected from the event. "I was told to bring these to you before I finish my shift." Her hands shook slightly as she set the tray down. He noticed. "Long night?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, sir." Nathaniel studied her for a moment. She wasn't like the women he usually met, ones drawn by status or money. Elena had a quiet strength that didn't need embellishment. "Sit," he said gently. "Only for a minute. You look exhausted." Her eyes widened. "Oh no, I can't. Staff aren't allowed. I'm the one who makes the rules," he interrupted softly. Slowly, nervously, she lowered herself into the chair across from him. Silence settled between them, comfortable but charged with something unspoken. Nathaniel leaned forward, studying her expression. Elena, how long have you been working here? 3 weeks, she replied. I'm still learning my way around. He smiled faintly. The estate is a maze even for people who've been here for years. She hesitated, then smiled back, just a little. But before either could say more, lightning flashed outside, followed by a deep rumble of thunder. Miami's sudden summer storm had arrived. Elena stood quickly. I should get going. My bus stop is a few blocks from here, and the rain. Absolutely not. Nathaniel rose from his chair. I'll have someone drive you home. She shook her head. No, sir, that's not necessary. I don't want to trouble. It's not trouble, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. For the first time, she looked directly into his eyes, really looked, and he felt something shift again. Something quiet, something dangerous, something fragile but impossible to ignore. Thank you, she whispered. Nathaniel nodded, but as she walked away, he realized something unsettlingly clear. This night had changed him, and it was only the beginning. Rain hammered against the windows as Elena stepped out through the servant's entrance, clutching her small bag to her chest. The storm had swallowed the night, turning the driveway into a shimmering river of reflections. She hesitated under the edge of the awning, unsure of where to go or what to expect. A sleek black town car rolled forward and stopped in front of her. The rear window lowered, revealing Nathaniel. Get in, he said. She blinked. I thought someone else would be driving. My chauffeur left early, he replied. And I'm not letting you wait out here alone in this weather. Her heart thudded. She opened the door and slid into the passenger seat, careful not to drip too much water onto the pristine leather. Nathaniel gave her a quick glance, just long enough to notice the raindrops clinging to her eyelashes, then shifted the car into drive. The estate gates opened automatically as they approached, and soon they were on the quiet Miami streets, the storm washing the city in streaks of silver. For several minutes, neither spoke. Elena sat stiffly, staring ahead. Nathaniel's gaze occasionally flicked toward her, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. He wasn't used to silence that felt meaningful. With most people, silence meant boredom or discomfort. With Elena, it felt like something was unfolding between them, piece by piece, without either of them forcing it. You live far from here? He finally asked. Little Havana, she replied. Near Southwest 9th. He nodded. That's about 20 minutes. Less when the weather's good, she said with a small smile. Nathaniel returned it before he could stop himself. Elena looked out the window again, watching raindrops race across the glass. Thank you for doing this, she said quietly. Most bosses wouldn't. I'm not most bosses. The words came out too quickly. Too honest. Her eyes softened. No, you're not. He swallowed, focusing on the road. After a while, she asked, Why do you live alone in a house that big? He glanced at her. Does it seem strange? It seems lonely, she admitted. All that space. All those rooms. And no one to talk to. Nathaniel didn't respond immediately. Her words hit deeper than expected. My parents passed years ago, he said finally. My siblings live on opposite coasts. The estate became more business than home. Elena nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes the place you live isn't the place you belong. Her insight startled him. Before he could respond, she pointed. Turn left here. Nathaniel guided the car down a narrow street lined with brightly painted houses, the kind of neighborhood where people sat on porches during cooler evenings and children played soccer in the streets. It was worlds apart from his manicured estate. This is me, Elena said as he pulled up beside a small, peach-colored duplex with a flickering porch light. Nathaniel parked. He didn't unlock the doors immediately. Did you enjoy working tonight? He asked gently. She hesitated. It was overwhelming, but I'm grateful for the job. Good, he replied. Because I'd like you to stay. Her breath caught. Stay? I wasn't planning to leave. I don't mean that, he said. I want you to feel like you belong there. Not just as staff. The rain outside filled the silence between them. Elena opened the door slowly. Good night, Mr. Drake. Nathaniel, he corrected softly. She paused. Good night, Nathaniel. She stepped out into the rain and hurried toward her porch, her silhouette framed by the glow of the street lamp. Nathaniel watched her until she disappeared inside. Only then did he exhale. Because for the first time in a long time, Nathaniel Drake realized something unsettling. He wanted someone. Not for business. Not for strategy. Not for convenience. He wanted her. And wanting Elena Rivera was a complication he had never planned for. 2 weeks later, the anticipation in the Drake mansion was palpable. Nathaniel's sister, Vanessa, was getting married at an exclusive oceanfront estate in Coconut Grove, and the entire family had gathered in Miami for the celebration. The grandeur of the venue, with its sweeping terraces and flowering gardens, seemed almost surreal against the turquoise backdrop of the bay. Nathaniel paced the hall of his mansion, adjusting the cuff of his tailored suit. His reflection in the polished mahogany mirrored his inner conflict. Composed, handsome, impeccably dressed, yet completely unprepared for what was about to happen. Elena appeared quietly in the doorway, carrying a folded coat and a small bag. She had spent the morning helping with final preparations at the mansion, making sure everything for the ride to the wedding went smoothly. Her presence was calm, grounding, yet it made his heart race more than he wanted to admit. "Nathaniel," she said gently, "you need to breathe. Today's just a wedding. You don't need to." "Pretend," he finished, a hint of vulnerability in his tone. Elena's eyes softened. "I know. And that's why I'll be there with you." He swallowed. He hadn't expected her to agree so easily when he'd first asked her to be his date. It had seemed ridiculous at the time, a maid attending a high-profile social event as the girlfriend of one of the most eligible bachelors in the country. But her willingness, her warmth, had disarmed him completely. "Shall we go?" she asked, offering her arm in a polite, understated gesture. He took it, trying not to let the tremor in his hand betray him. The drive to Coconut Grove was quiet, punctuated only by the soft hum of tires against wet asphalt and the occasional flash of Miami lightning illuminating the streets. Nathaniel kept stealing glances at Elena, her curls slightly damp from the morning drizzle, her eyes bright, her lips curved in a small, patient smile. He hadn't realized how much he'd come to rely on her presence until now. The estate loomed ahead, its white columns and manicured gardens sparkling with festive lights. Guests in glittering dresses and tailored suits lined the grand entrance. Nathaniel felt his chest tighten as his family waved from the terrace. He knew the whispers would start the second they arrived. Vanessa appeared at the top of the steps, radiant in her gown. "Nathaniel," she called, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "And you actually brought a date?" Nathaniel gave a faint smile, allowing Elena to step slightly forward. "This is Elena," he said simply, his voice quieter than usual but steady. "She's helped me survive the week." Elena's cheeks warmed under the scrutiny of dozens of socialites, family members, and distant relatives. But she held herself with grace, her posture perfect, her smile effortless. Vanessa's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Well, she looks amazing. Nathaniel, you've outdone yourself. Everyone meet Elena Rivera. She's charming, intelligent, and beautiful. And yes, she actually agreed to be my brother's date." Laughter and polite applause followed. Nathaniel's mother, Margaret, approached quietly, her elegant cream suit glowing under the lights. She leaned slightly toward Elena, giving a warm, approving smile. "Welcome," she whispered. "You've made him very different. In a good way." Elena's heart skipped. She had not expected the matriarch of the Drake family to be so kind. "Thank you, Mrs. Drake," she murmured. Nathaniel's attention, however, never left her. Every time she moved, he felt a subtle shift in his chest, a mixture of desire, protectiveness, and something he hadn't named yet. The ceremony began. Music floated across the gardens. Guests took their seats. Nathaniel and Elena found themselves side by side, perfectly synchronized as they greeted people, offered small talk, and fended off curious stares. By the time the reception began, Nathaniel realized something. Elena didn't just fit in. She commanded quiet admiration without trying. People leaned toward her when she spoke. Laughter followed her voice. Even his sister, newly married and radiant, couldn't stop smiling at how naturally Elena complimented Nathaniel. At one point, Nathaniel stepped away to take a brief call. Margaret, ever perceptive, leaned toward Elena. "My dear, I know you're only here to help him," she said softly. "But you may never realize how much you've already changed his life. He's been alone too long. And perhaps you could make him truly happy." Elena's eyes widened, caught off guard. Mrs. Drake, I. Sure, Margaret said with a warm smile. Just be yourself. That's enough. Later, under the soft glow of lanterns and the Miami night sky, Vanessa encouraged Nathaniel onto the dance floor. He hesitated, stiff and self-conscious. Go on, Vanessa teased. You can't hide all night. Nathaniel turned to Elena. May I? Her fingers brushed his as she extended her hand. You may. The first steps were awkward. Nathaniel had never been much of a dancer, but Elena's quiet confidence guided him. Step by step, sway by sway, their movements began to align, not just physically, but emotionally. Their eyes met. Hers curious, his steady but trembling. And in that quiet exchange, Nathaniel felt something ignite, a spark he hadn't known existed. It wasn't passion. Not yet. It was recognition. Connection. A moment that felt like it could stretch forever. When the song ended, applause surrounded them. Nathaniel's smile was genuine, rare, and it reached his eyes in a way that left Elena breathless. By the end of the night, the mansion was quiet again. Elena returned the borrowed gown to Nathaniel's home, removing her heels and stepping into the quiet of her own apartment. Nathaniel lingered in his study, staring out at the Miami skyline, thinking of her. Her laugh, her warmth, the gentle strength she carried effortlessly. For the first time, silence didn't feel empty. It hummed with possibility. And somewhere deep inside, Nathaniel Drake realized something undeniable. The woman who had only been asked to play a role might have awakened something very real. The Monday after Vanessa's wedding dawned humid and golden, the sunlight glinting off Miami's Biscayne Bay. Nathaniel's mansion, usually a place of precise order and quiet, felt slightly different. Warmer, lighter, and somehow charged with the memory of the weekend. Elena moved through her morning tasks, folding linens and organizing the kitchen with her usual calm efficiency. But her mind kept drifting to the dance floor, the soft brush of Nathaniel's fingers against hers, the way his rare smile had lit up his face. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought. He was her employer, a billionaire. Their worlds were too different. Nathaniel, however, was already awake, in the study with sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He had a meeting at the office later, but the stack of documents on his desk remained untouched. His thoughts kept drifting to Elena. Her laugh, the warmth of her hand, the way she seemed to make his massive house feel like home. When Elena entered the study to deliver his morning coffee, he looked up. Good morning, he said softly. Good morning, Nathaniel, she replied, placing the cup on his desk. He held her gaze longer than usual. Elena. She paused, unsure whether to respond. I've been thinking, he continued, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. About the wedding. About us. About how I've been living. Her breath caught. Nathaniel. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling slowly. I realize I've been alone because I've chosen to be. Because I never thought anyone could actually understand me. But you're different. Elena's cheeks warmed. Nathaniel, Sure, he interrupted gently but with urgency. Let me finish. I don't know where this leads. I don't know if it's possible. But I can't go back to silence. Not now. Not after seeing what it feels like to have someone beside me. The weight of his words hung in the air. Elena felt a rush of emotions, fear, desire, longing, but she kept her voice steady. Nathaniel, you're important to me. More than anyone I've ever known. But we need to be careful. I know, he said quietly, his eyes soft but intense. I'm willing to be careful if it means keeping you near. The next few days brought subtle changes. Nathaniel lingered in her presence more often, offering small compliments, asking about her day, even sharing trivial stories about his work. At first, Elena responded politely, keeping boundaries. But she noticed the little things. The way he hesitated before speaking, the faint tension in his shoulders when she entered a room, the small smile he reserved only for her. One afternoon, the storm rolled in suddenly, Miami's signature summer weather turning the city streets into rivers. Elena was drying dishes in the kitchen when Nathaniel appeared, holding a lantern. The power's out, he said, a hint of amusement in his tone. Looks like we're trapped inside. She smiled softly. It's kind of nice. Quiet. Private. He nodded, leaning against the counter, the candlelight highlighting his sharp features. Elena, can we talk? She set the towel down and nodded. For the next hour, the rain poured outside while inside. They spoke freely about family, hopes, regrets, the loneliness of wealth, and the challenges she had faced growing up in Little Havana. Nathaniel shared things he had never told anyone: the pressure of expectation, the quiet ache of isolation, and the longing for something authentic. Elena listened, offering understanding, insight, and empathy. By the time the storm passed, the house felt different. Softer, safer, and something unspoken had passed between them. An acknowledgement that their connection was more than circumstance, more than a social experiment, more than a wedding favor. 2 weeks later, an unexpected twist threatened to test their fragile bond. A high-profile business rival of Nathaniel's, aware of Elena's presence at the wedding, began circulating whispers, subtle, insidious rumors that a staff member was influencing the billionaire's decisions. Elena heard about it first through hushed conversations among staff. Her heart sank. She had never sought attention, never wanted interference. And now, her presence had drawn unwelcome eyes. Nathaniel, however, was prepared. "I know what's happening," he said firmly when she confided in him. "And I don't care what anyone says. You have done nothing wrong. You're my choice, and anyone who questions that can deal with me." Elena looked at him, astonished. His confidence, normally reserved for business negotiations, now protected her, fiercely and without hesitation. "Are you sure?" she asked quietly. "More than anything," he said. His hand brushed hers, lingering, careful, deliberate. "Because I've realized something important. I don't want to live in silence anymore. I want you in my life, not just for appearances, not for comfort, but because I care. Because you make my life feel real." The warmth in his words, the honesty in his eyes, broke down the walls Elena had built around her heart. She smiled, small and tentative, but genuine. "Then I'll stay," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Nathaniel's lips curved into a rare, full smile. "Good. Because I need you, Elena. More than I ever expected." As night fell over Miami, the storm had passed, leaving the city glowing with reflections of neon lights and wet streets. Inside the Drake mansion, Elena and Nathaniel stood together by the terrace, the soft breeze brushing their faces. The distance between their worlds, billionaire and maid, elite and everyday, felt irrelevant now. What mattered was here, now, in the quiet understanding, the shared laughter, the brush of fingers, the warmth of connection. For the first time in years, Nathaniel Drake felt fully awake. And Elena Rivera realized that sometimes the heart chooses what the world would never expect. The week following the stormy afternoon passed in a blur of Miami sunshine, business meetings, and small, stolen moments between Nathaniel and Elena. The mansion, once silent and austere, now hummed with quiet warmth. Morning coffees were shared at the terrace table, fingers brushing accidentally yet deliberately. Laughter echoed softly in the hallways. But even in paradise, complications have a way of finding their mark. It began with a phone call Nathaniel had ignored earlier, now impossible to postpone. A prominent investor, critical to the next phase of his real estate expansion, had requested an urgent meeting, and he expected Elena to accompany him. "I don't know if this is a good idea," Elena said as they prepared to leave the mansion, her hands smoothing the folds of her dress. "I'm not used to that world." Nathaniel's gaze softened, warm yet firm. "Elena, you're not just used to it. You belong. You've been beside me through every step, and I want you there. Not because it's convenient, but because I trust you. And because I want the world to see the truth. You are important to me." Her breath caught at the sincerity in his voice. She nodded, swallowing the nervous lump in her throat. The boardroom in downtown Miami buzzed with tension. Investors murmured, papers shuffled, screens flickered with projections. Elena felt slightly out of place in her modest yet elegant attire amid suits and luxury watches. Nathaniel, ever composed, introduced her as his partner. A few eyebrows raised. Whispers rippled through the room. But Elena's poise, her intelligence in answering questions about hospitality and event management, and her gentle confidence soon silenced the murmurs. Nathaniel watched her, heart swelling with pride and a fierce protectiveness he could no longer ignore. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind Biscayne Bay, they drove back in silence, the hum of the luxury car filling the space between them. Nathaniel finally broke it. Elena, about the wedding, about us. I haven't stopped thinking about it. About you. About what it means to me. Her fingers curled around the edge of her seat. Nathaniel, I feel the same. But, he prompted, voice low, concerned. I'm still your employee. And what happened at the board meeting? It reminded me how different our lives are. People will talk. He reached over, covering her hand with his. Let them. What matters is what we know. What we feel. I don't care about whispers or judgments anymore. I care about you. That's all I've ever wanted. Her chest tightened at the raw intensity in his gaze. For a long moment, neither spoke, only the waves crashing faintly on the shore below them and the Miami skyline reflecting in their eyes. A week later, the first real test of their bond arrived. A high-profile charity gala, hosted by Nathaniel's most influential business associate, required Nathaniel to attend with a companion. The event was a glittering showcase of wealth and power, and Elena felt the familiar unease creeping in. I'm nervous, she admitted as they stepped into the ballroom, chandeliers casting prisms of light across marble floors. Nathaniel's fingers brushed hers. So am I. But together we can face it. And face it they did. Elena navigated the crowd gracefully, charming the influential attendees with genuine warmth. Nathaniel watched her, awestruck and silently grateful. Each compliment she received made his chest swell, not with pride alone, but with something deeper, something he had long denied: love, admiration, desire. Halfway through the night, a rival businessman, notorious for meddling in Nathaniel's affairs, approached. His smirk was sharp, predatory. Well, Nathaniel, he said, nodding toward Elena. Quite the unexpected choice for a companion. Elena met his gaze calmly. I assure you, sir, I'm fully capable of conversation. Shall we proceed? Nathaniel, silently proud, placed a firm hand on her back. She's more than capable, he said. The firmness of his tone made the rival step back, the smirk faltering. Elena felt a rush of admiration and relief. Nathaniel wasn't just protective. He was fearless when it came to her. By the time they returned to the mansion, the streets glittering with reflections of neon lights and passing cars, both were exhausted but exhilarated. Nathaniel poured 2 glasses of wine on the terrace. Elena, tonight, he began, voice soft yet intense. I need you to know something. You've changed me. Every part of me I thought was unmovable, unfeeling, you've stirred. You've made me see the world differently. And I don't want to go back to being alone. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she accepted her glass. Nathaniel, I feel the same. But I'm scared. Scared of losing you, scared of the world, scared of everything. He reached across the table, taking her hands in his, holding them gently but firmly. Then we face it together. All of it. I don't care about the title, the gossip, the power. I care about us. And I want you fully. No pretenses. Her heart thudded in response, every fear overshadowed by the certainty in his words. Then we do this. Together. The night stretched on, the soft Miami breeze mingling with laughter and distant music from the city below. Nathaniel and Elena stood side by side on the terrace, hands intertwined, eyes locked in quiet understanding. For the first time, the billionaire who had never known love felt alive in a way that wealth could never buy. And for the woman who had only ever sought security and purpose, she discovered that sometimes love chooses the most unexpected hearts, and it is worth every risk. The city sparkled around them, but nothing shone brighter than the fragile, daring, undeniable bond forming between Nathaniel Drake and Elena Rivera. Miami had a sultry heat that evening, the kind that made the city hum with life. Nathaniel's mansion glimmered under soft lights, the reflection of the bay shimmering across the terrace. Everything seemed perfect on the surface: wealth, success, elegance, but beneath it tension simmered. Elena sensed it first. She had been working in the kitchen, arranging hors d'oeuvres for an intimate dinner Nathaniel had invited some close friends and business partners to attend. But she felt the shift in the air, Nathaniel's rare silence, the tightness in his jaw, the storm in his dark eyes whenever he glanced at her. Finally, he asked her to step onto the terrace with him. The night was still, except for the soft lapping of the water below and the occasional honk of a distant car. Elena, he began, voice low, almost fragile. There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said before, but I was afraid. She looked at him, heart pounding. Nathaniel. No, he interrupted gently. Let me finish. He took a deep breath, fingers brushing hers, grounding them both. 2 nights ago, I received an offer, a partnership, a merger that could change everything for my company. But the terms, they involved you. People want to use you, Elena. Your presence, your charm, your intelligence, they see it as leverage. Elena's eyes widened. Leverage? They want to use me. Nathaniel nodded, jaw tight. I didn't want to involve you, but now I realize I can't protect you by staying silent. They know you're important to me. And some of them, they don't respect that. I don't want anyone to ever take advantage of you. Her throat tightened. Nathaniel, you think too much of me. He cut her off, shaking his head. No, I mean every word. I've spent my whole life building walls around myself, pretending I could handle everything. But you've broken them down. And I can't bear the thought of anyone hurting you. Tears pricked Elena's eyes. Nathaniel, I don't care about the rumors, the gossip, the money. I only care about you. About us. He stepped closer, their foreheads almost touching. Then we face it. Together. Everything. No secrets. No pretending. Just us. The intensity of his gaze, the raw sincerity in his voice, left her breathless. For the first time, she realized that love wasn't about safety or predictability. It was about courage, about choosing someone every day, despite the chaos of the world. The next day brought challenges Nathaniel hadn't anticipated. A tabloid had leaked a photograph from the charity gala, showing Elena beside him, and speculation ran rampant. Business associates whispered, social media exploded, and the city's elite had opinions. Nathaniel, however, stood unwavering. He posted a short statement on his company's official page. Elena Rivera is an important part of my life, and I could not be prouder of her. Anyone who tries to diminish her worth will have to answer to me. Elena read it with wide eyes. You did that for me? He smiled softly, brushing a curl behind her ear. For us. Because I can't imagine a life without you now. Not even one day. Her heart swelled. Nathaniel, I love you. I love you too, he said, his voice low, almost reverent. More than I ever thought possible. And I will fight for us, every single day, if I have to. That evening, with the city lights reflecting across the bay, Nathaniel led Elena to the terrace, where a quiet dinner had been prepared. Candles flickering, soft music in the background, the faint scent of jasmine in the air. I wanted tonight to be ours, he said. No distractions, no expectations. Just you and me. Elena smiled, the tension of the past days melting away. They talked, laughed, and shared small, tender moments, rediscovering the simple joy of being together. When the dessert arrived, Nathaniel rose and took her hand. Elena Rivera, he said, voice trembling slightly. I've tried to ignore it, to protect myself, to live behind walls. But you've shown me what it means to be alive, to feel, to care. And I can't imagine another day without you. Will you be mine? Truly mine. Tears streamed down Elena's face. She nodded, whispering, Yes, Nathaniel. Yes. He pulled her close, kissing her slowly, tenderly, as if committing every promise, every hope, and every dream into that moment. From that night forward, everything changed. Nathaniel's mansion, once echoing with cold silence, hummed with laughter, conversation, and warmth. Elena was no longer merely a presence in his world. She was his partner, his confidant, his love. The city of Miami, vibrant and chaotic, reflected their newfound joy. Together, they faced challenges, rumors, and expectations, but their bond only grew stronger. Love, they discovered, was not a fairy tale or a convenience. It was courage, honesty, and the willingness to stand together against the world. And under the soft glow of the Miami skyline, Nathaniel Drake and Elena Rivera finally understood that their hearts, once bound by circumstance, had chosen each other freely, fully, and forever. 2 years had passed since that unforgettable night on the Miami terrace. The night Nathaniel had confessed his heart and Elena had said yes. The city had changed, new developments, glittering skyscrapers. But for Nathaniel and Elena, the most important transformation was within their home and their lives. The Drake mansion, once a symbol of silence and restraint, now radiated warmth and laughter. Morning sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the elegant chaos of a life fully lived. The soft hum of the bay mingled with the sound of children playing in the garden. Nathaniel stood near the terrace, cradling their young daughter, Isabella, in his arms. Her tiny fingers clutched his tie as she babbled happily, drooling a little on his shoulder. Elena watched them from the kitchen, smiling as she prepared breakfast. Her curls were loose, her hands flour-dusted from making pancakes, but her presence glowed with quiet confidence and joy. Nathaniel leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to Isabella's forehead. "Careful, little lady," he teased softly. "That tie costs more than your entire wardrobe." Elena chuckled, placing a tray of freshly made pancakes on the table. "She doesn't care about the cost, Nathaniel. She just wants you." He glanced at her, eyes soft, filled with a love that had only deepened over time. "And I want her. And you. Both of you. Every day." The doorbell rang, and Nathaniel's sister, Valeria, arrived with her husband and their toddler son, Matteo. The children ran toward each other, squealing in delight, while Valeria laughed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Elena, you look radiant as always," she said warmly. "And Nathaniel, you finally learned to smile without being reminded." Nathaniel chuckled, adjusting Isabella in his arms. "I learned from the best," he said, nodding toward Elena. The family gathered on the terrace, the sunlight reflecting off soft linens, fresh flowers, and carefully arranged tables. Friends and neighbors joined for the intimate celebration, laughter, stories, and love filling every corner of the garden. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky blushed pink and gold, Nathaniel and Elena found a quiet moment together, holding hands and watching their children play. "Elena," Nathaniel whispered, brushing a loose curl from her face, "do you remember the first time I asked you to pretend to be my date?" She laughed softly, resting her head on his shoulder. "How could I forget? I thought it was the most unusual request of my life." He smiled, eyes glistening. "It was a request that changed everything. That one lie led to the truest part of my life. You showed me what it meant to love, to feel, to truly live. And I'll spend every day grateful for that moment." Elena's eyes shimmered with tears of happiness. "And I'll spend every day loving you, Nathaniel. You gave me a world I never thought I deserved. And I finally know that love doesn't come with conditions. It comes with courage and trust." They kissed, slow and tender, beneath the glow of the Miami skyline, the world around them alive with color, laughter, and warmth. Their children's giggles drifted from the garden, the soft clink of dinnerware, the hum of life fully embraced. The mansion that had once echoed with silence now thrummed with love, joy, and family. Nathaniel and Elena had discovered the rarest of treasures, a love that endured, a home filled with laughter, and the courage to face the world together. As night settled over Miami, the lights of the city reflecting in the bay, Nathaniel whispered to Elena, "You are the best thing I ever planned." "And the truest thing I ever found," she replied. Together, they watched their children play under the soft glow of lanterns in the garden, the laughter and love around them a testament to their journey. The billionaire who had never known love, and the woman who had once been only a presence in his world, had found a life beyond dreams, a life of family, joy, and unshakable devotion. And in that golden Miami night, the Drake family lived fully, loved fiercely, and knew that some things, like the heart, were worth every risk, every moment, every leap of faith. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to Boundless Echoes for more interesting stories. We really appreciate your support. Comment where you are watching from, so we can give you a shout out. See you in our next video.